The stream is live.
There we go. Yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on with that. What's up, guys? It's everyone's favorite Campy here, and welcome back to Shooting the Breeze. This is part 12 with Scotty P.
What's up?
And, of course, so, Scotty, tell the guests how we met, if you recall.
The brothel, or? I remember first meeting you at a quantified performance match. It might have been the very first one. You running around in short shorts with your big army tattoo on your forearm, shooting a Grindeasy, if I remember, old 6.5 Grindle, I think. Telling me how awesome your 4-14 primary arms was. If I remember correctly, we met. I know that it was that year, but it was either that or up at like Coleman's Creek or something at a match. I couldn't remember.
It was, yeah, because you shot some of the sniper matches that I shot like earlier on and stuff like that. But we'll just say around 2018, 2019 timeframe, summers around there. Yeah. But I'm sure we crossed paths before then. But that was when we started talking. And yes, I was using a primary arms 4-14 and a 6.5 Grindle, which I mean, like 6.5 Grindle at the time to me was just like it running the lighter bullets. And I think that's where people make a lot of mistakes with the 6 arc and stuff like that as well, is I was running lighter bullets in it so that I had a flatter trajectory. I don't necessarily like that terminology, but I had a flatter trajectory and I was shooting, I think, like a 107 grain Sierras or something like that out of it. So
probably,
and yeah. You know, I think people fuck up with the 6mm arc because everybody's loading 108, 105 grain bullets when they should be loading like 95 grain bullets and shit like that for the barrel lengths that people are using. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, it just depends on what they're trying to get out of it. You know, especially if you're averaging 600 yards an in or something, I think you're wasting some of the ballistic capabilities of the heavier, longer caliber, higher BC bullets. But you know, and especially shorter barrels, you know, the 12.5s. A lot of dudes did short barrels and Grindle, 6.5 Grindle especially. So there's just no reason, I think, to run, you know, 123s and 130s and shooting them at like 2,200 feet per second when they could shoot something else at 25. You know, so
yeah. All right, so tell the viewers who you are.
Scott Peterson, coming up on retirement, 20 years in the military. Served in a couple branches, been shooting competitively for about 14 years, both privately as well as for the military. And yeah, I got a couple months left. Started a business training and consulting. So that's what I'll be. I've done a few classes so far, and I'll pick up the consulting piece after retirement. Yeah, looking forward for that in the next couple months. So I've just been running around sharing the gospel of marksmanship and precision rifle fundamentals and things like that. And I don't know, I just really like teaching. And I look at myself, I'm a father of 2. I've been married for 17 years. I have 2 kids that are 13 and 15. So I have an expensive hobby, and I'm about to have to buy vehicles and college and all that. So just trying to figure out how to pay for it all.
And you can absolutely say your business's name on here.
Oh yeah. So the business I started is called Veracity Solutions. A little bit on Instagram, got the Facebook going, got a website up recently, got a few classes. Everything right now is out in California. So oddly enough, there's a huge thriving gun community in California, even in the gas gun space, you know, the AR space. And I was excited. I got a chance to go out there and teach in April, and liked it a lot, liked the people a lot in Northern California, and they wanted me to come back. So I'm doing 2 classes coming up in October out in Northern California, and nothing else on the books for the year just because I've got a bunch of other stuff else going on through retirement. So, but yeah.
Where did the name come from?
The name, so Veracity Solutions was just one of those things I added. You know, I was trying to go through some names, but so, you know, I heard something a long time ago. I credit it to Jacob Bynum down at Rifles Only. but I can't remember if it was him or just somewhere else, or maybe he said it and somebody else told me. But anyways, the bullet doesn't lie, right? Like, so maybe you've heard that before.
Yep.
People listening, or you as well can, but meaning, like, when you fire the bullet, wherever it goes, like, it's the truth. It doesn't lie,
Yep.
right? So, like, if you think you pulled a shot, or wind call was off, or what, no matter what, like, the bullet within reason of precision and accuracy, right? Unless just crazy bad ammo or something happens, but the bullet doesn't lie, and just a general terminology. And so I'd had that on my mind and was trying to figure out how, like, I could incorporate that and a few other things into the name of my business, and not do the algorithm thing where start it with an A, so when you Google it, this is the first one that pops up. And was looking at, like, well, like, I want to tell the truth. I want to give good information. I want to somehow incorporate some of these things, these mottos and things I've heard and said over the years. And what's a good word for that, And just happened to be watching TV one day, and I forget the show that it was on at the time, but the guy, was like, the veracity of this, and I'm like, veracity. I was like, doesn't that mean truth? And I'm like, literally light bulb. And so if you look up, it's got a few different kind of definitions, but accuracy and truth are part of the definition of veracity. So I was like, why not? Why not? That's a good name. The accuracy in what you're saying, or the truth, it being truthful, loyal, things like that. So I thought it was like a perfect name for what I want to do, being a precision, or people use precision or accuracy for precision when they should be using different words. It really doesn't matter, not a hill to die on to me, but I just thought those two things were important. So truth and then accuracy. And I just found a word that had both as a definition. So
Now, I know we're going a little bit off of the syllabus and everything like that with me. I'm kind of throwing some curveballs at you a little bit. But I had called you one day somewhat recently because I had heard something about you. And, like, to me, I couldn't believe it. Somebody had said that some people didn't like you. Like, people on the internet did not like you. And it legitimately, like, this is not bullshit. This legitimately blew my fucking mind, because I was like, Scott is one of the nicest fucking dudes that I know. And, and I was like, to think that people don't like you or whatever, somebody's mad at you or something. And then whenever I called you about it, your explanation was, basically some people, don't want to hear the truth. And I really appreciated that as your answer was, because it also goes along with, what you just said. That's what reminded me of it, about, truth, that, in the bullet doesn't lie. And then you also, give good, honest feedback and information. And some people just don't like that. I've run into that a lot, both in my military career, in my instructing career, and as a competitive shooter, just the people that I meet and stuff like that. You hear the fuddy talk, which even that's disingenuous, but you hear some of the things that people say, and a lot of times it's just lack of education. And they kind of have the verbal diarrhea of just something that they heard, but then they never had the opportunity, or maybe even the will, to test a theory and stuff like that. And I really like what you're doing right now with, some of the things that, people would say on the range, like that your handguard doesn't matter, or like the, what kind of platform that you're shooting off, whether it be a squeeze bag, a bipod, or if you're just, firing freehand or whatever. And I like that you are testing these things, but you're not just doing that. You're making the information free. This is stuff that, like I had said to you earlier last week or whatever, with the targets that you made, you should absolutely charge people for that, but you're not. And, like that was just, I'm just like, man, Scotty's just a fucking good dude. And I couldn't believe that, people don't like you.
I appreciate it. And that's fine. Like, people don't have to like me. And I wouldn't say it's always just like, because I speak the truth specifically. I do my best to be unbiased. I'm a firm believer that as humans, we're born with a bias. Like, I like women and I like guns. That's just a bias. And I've liked that since a very early age, right? Like, so I automatically might have a bias versus someone that doesn't like guns, and then they like golf, and like, well, they have their favorite and I have my favorite. It's fine. It's okay. Same with people. Like, sometimes we have people we like, we don't. I just a running joke I've said for years with guys at work. Like, if you talk more than me, we probably won't get along, because I talk a lot. It's just a joke, but it kind of does work out that way sometimes. And but long story short, I'm not always right, and that's okay. Like it's you're going to be wrong at some point, or things that we've known and tested throughout the years may have been factual, but sometimes new technology or something comes along, or something happens and things change, right? And so it wasn't necessarily that we were wrong before. We may have been misinformed with the data that we had at the time, or we have done something incorrectly that skewed the data. But the point being is like try not to speak in absolutes, you know. And I used to tell people like don't speak in absolutes, but it's also that's saying that is an absolute, right?
Mhm.
So, but trying not to speak in
Never
absolutes
say
and
never,
just put
right?
out right and just put out the information that you have at hand and try to leave it at face value. Try not to have an emotional tie to things like that. You know, like emotions, I think, are more for family, right? That's how I look at it. Like I shouldn't have an emotional attachment to a firearm,
Mhm.
or a bullet, or an ammo load, or a cartridge, or whatever. And some people do, some people don't. You know, like you see all the Creedmoor jokes and all that stuff here, and some people just go to town and they'll die on that hill of it's great or it's bad. You know, and I think they spend so much more effort doing that than they could have picked up a ballistic calculator or read a book, um,
Mhm.
just to see. You know, like somebody told me the other day, and no offense to them, they're like 6 arc sucks. Why? Because it can't kill an animal. I'm like, well,
That's not
but
true.
then they say 6 Creed can do it, you know, or they would use 5.56 instead. It's like, well, it sounds like me, you just chose like maybe the wrong bullet, the wrong velocity, or something like that. Now maybe there's limited factory offerings, etc. But anyways, not to go on a tangent. But like it's just I think, you know, instead of complaining about it and you had this problem, why not do a little research? And maybe they did. I don't know. But you know, I think that's where I've tried to come in, is use the experience I've been very, very fortunate to have, and the people I've met along the way, both within the industry as professionals and just friends shooting, like, you know, and guys like you, and within the military that were also, we didn't even meet in the military. We just met doing something we enjoyed, you know, and then just so happened like, oh, by the way, we're both in the military and stuff like that. But we had a lot of the same appreciations for things, and we both like teaching and just sharing knowledge and all that. And same with like I don't right now I don't have a desire to do like a Patreons and all that. Totally not against it. It's just more work for me. And right now it's summer and I'm about to retire, and I prefer to just give stuff out for free when I can and spend time with my kids. You know, but you know, like some things I don't mind being free. Maybe some things won't be. You know, somebody reached out to me the other day, asked if I want to do my targets on Shoot and See laminate, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, Cam said I should charge. Well, maybe I have the, you know, normal ones for free, but I could sell these in a larger space. You know, so maybe
Mhm.
that's something that I end up co-branding with them for. But that might be something interesting. Yeah. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that would be. All right. So now back to the syllabus. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna allow that tangent to continue that you started to go on because this is your show. You were talking about, you know, studying ballistics for somebody who said that a 6 arc won't kill an animal, but they said that a 5.56 will. And I used to hear that all the time about 6.5 Creedmoor. People were always saying 6.5 Creedmoor just passes through deer and doesn't do any damage, and you know all this other whatever. All right, man, shoot a 6.5 Grindle if they're that fucking close. Because that's what I like about 6.5 Grindle, that it's a slower projectile, but it's the same, you know, diameter or whatever. So I'll use 6.5 Grindle typically to deer hunt 300 yards and in. And if they're past 300 yards or UKD, then I'll use a 6.5 Creedmoor. That's my deer cartridge. So, you know, like, and to hear the same thing about 6 arc, I've killed deer with 22 long rifle. Yeah.
right, you know, and it's like, how many animals has the 6.5 55 Swede taken over the last 100+ years that it's been around? You know, like it's literally killed moose.
Before we
You
had
know,
good bullets.
yeah, before we had good bullets. Now, again, it comes back like, okay, before we had good bullets. Well, that bullet was really good for killing. So maybe the match bullet that I'm using in my Creedmoor, I shouldn't be shooting in animals, you know. And so I think just it comes back to understanding what you are shooting and why. Um, I'm big on, and again, you know, I used to speak in absolutes. I used to think that my way was the only way. I was in the Marine Corps, and it was just you had to do it this way, and etc. And you had to do all the fundamentals to always hit. And now I realize, like, sometimes you don't. I mean, you should, but sometimes you don't have to do this or that. And so I've done my best to get away from that. It's like same with what I tell people is like, they're like, what's the best gun or what's the best scope? You know, we hear that. What's the best bullet or cartridge? It's like, why don't you, what are you going to do with it? Everybody wants to jump in and give them an answer of what what they think is best or whatever. But like my question on the internet, and I've seen you do it too, is like, what do you want to do with it? Right. Like, and
Yeah.
also like,
The
what's
way
your budget?
the way I work, what is your application of use?
Yeah. And so, because you need to determine, in my mind, what you want to do with it, and then backwards plan from there. And I use the examples like, okay, cool, we want to take a family vacation. Okay, where? The beach. Okay, we know we're here, and I know where I want to go. Now I had to plan how to get there. So same thing, right? It's just like taking a vacation. So if I'm going to figure out like, okay, well, I want to kill animals. Okay, what kind of animals? White-tailed deer. Cool. Where do I live? Alabama. What's the farthest shot I might take? 100 steps, because they don't even know what yards are. Probably maybe a 30-30, you know. Like maybe I don't need a 6.5 Creed or a 6.5 PRC, or like I used to see 7mm Remington Ultra Mags and 270s and 300 Win Mags as a kid, and the dude shoots it out of a climbing stand at 30 yards on a deer, comes back and is bleeding, you know, because they shot their Remington Ultra Mag. They really needed that for that 62-pound doe they shot, you know.
Yeah, for that big dog.
You know, exactly. But anyways, yeah, it just comes back to like, I think people get something because the Instagrams these days said so. Back then it was the Thrifty Nickel or, you know, like, you know, American Gunner or whatever magazine they were reading.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the Instagram and the Facebook, and people just jump on board with whatever the operator is using or something like that. Or the dude that used to be an operator that is now paid by X company or works for a company, which again is fine. You should be enthusiastic about your product, but just don't lie to people is my big one on that one.
I appreciate that. All right, now back to the syllabus. Gas or bolt?
Gas.
You got any words you want to expand on that, or are you just dead set gas gun guy like me?
I mean, I love them all, right?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the nuances and difficulties of shooting gas guns, both whether it be just a carbine or really trying to squeeze the utmost precision, both out of the weapon system and the shooter being able to use that weapon system effectively. And some of that through, you know, has come up through my testing and stuff that I've posted recently. That's, you know, just having POI shifts of the rail deflection and things like that and barrel deflection isn't the whole picture. Like, okay, well, now how do we mitigate that as a shooter? Well, first off, we need to be as consistent as possible so that that shift stays the same or is eliminated completely, right? So how do we get there? You know, so it's not just how precise can the gun shoot, how precise and accurate can we shoot the gun? And you have to do that through consistency, both in equipment, ammunition, and yourself. And I feel the challenge with gas guns. I like the challenge, and so that's why I say gas.
What is your favorite rifle chambering?
I love them all. Because I'm a sadist, I guess. 308. um, no. I'd say, you know, I really do like the 6.5 Creed more. I think it offers a lot of options for what it is, you know. And I'm not a big game hunter as far as like elk, mule deer, moose, and things like that. But if I really needed it to, I could shoot one, you know. And people are like, well, it don't have this much energy. It's like, well, what's your arrow doing at 50 yards? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
much energy does that have at 70 yards that you guys are gauging? So like, what's more ethical, you shooting an arrow or me shooting a 140 grain bullet at 2,800 feet per second? And so, and one that I could do a follow up shot with.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I think it's very capable. You can have good hunting cartridges. You can have your plinking, have fun cartridges, or you know, loadings for it. You can shoot a mile if you wanted to. And I think having that kind of capability in a cartridge that can be reliable in a gas gun and reliable bolt gun, lever gun, um, you know, and also be fairly readily, like the fact that you can find it at Walmart is a key now. That it's not a fad anymore. It's here to stay. You know, And I can go to Academy or Walmart or local gun shop, and they have Creedmoor. It may not be the match ammo that I require for whatever I'm doing, but they have something. And so I think 6.5 Creedmoor is probably, I'm scared to say favorite, but like what I feel is one of the most reliable and best cartridges for all around use.
Yeah, versatile. Yeah,
versatile. That's the word I was looking for. But you're smart.
I could see you searching, and I was like, I know what he's thinking right now. For once,
I don't normally go that far down in the alphabet. I ruined Veracity. That was the only V I used, so I couldn't think anymore.
All right, dial or hold?
Ooh, a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of both. Sometimes I've dialed out a specific target and I'm holding for another target. In the truest form of precision, when you're looking at like things like F class, I think it just depends on what you're doing, F class or high power or even PRS. Majority of that is dialed. Maybe some holding wind or whatever, but in the gas gun stuff, a lot of it is holding. Some of it is dialing. And some of it's a 6 target array, and you dial the middle target and hold under for the close ones and hold over for the far ones. So I guess I really don't have a preference on that. But if I was trying to shoot the smallest group possible, I would say dial.
I've used to be exclusively a hold guy. Like that was all I would do. I would zero, but I was also using $300 primary arm scopes. But I would zero the scope at 100 yards, and every target I shot after that, because I had the opportunity within the reticle, every shot I made in a competition was all holds. And what I've found post accident and stuff like that, with what happened to my brain and everything with the traumatic brain injuries and stuff like that I sustained, that it is easier for me now to dial. So I've got and I have more capable scopes. They're better scopes and stuff like that. One of them actually that I used this past weekend is one that you gave me, and I'll oftentimes dial for the nearest target and then hold past that. Or if it makes sense, I'll dial a number, and depending on target size, that will determine kind of what number I dial, if that makes sense. Like if I'm shooting full size IPSCs out to 500, then I'll dial like 1.5 mil on my scope and just hold center on everything, because that's still a 30-inch tall target, at every distance.
Kind
so
of
I'm gonna
like a rough mile point blank, or a max point blank.
Yeah. So I'll do stuff like that and I've started using that a lot more in the DMR type matches that I shoot, like Chad's match, where 600 yards is the farthest target, and typically they're not super small targets either. I'll just dial a close enough number and just send those. So I've kind of moved to, just as good. I've moved over to the dial and hold. I used to be exclusively a hold guy, but yeah, I'm right there with you. What is your
little tricks you can do?
Mm-hmm. What is your long range experience?
I've shot it once.
Once or twice.
Let's see how far we want to go back with this one.
As far as you want.
Shot, primarily competition. I was never in a infantry, sniper, marksman billet. As far as that goes, I was handed a old M14 DMR way back when in Fallujah as a mechanic when I was in the Marine Corps, and was told to go, because I was the only person at the time that knew how to use a scope that had turrets on it. When they asked the couple guys in the company, they were like, "Hey, you guys qualified the highest. Anybody know what this is?" And they're like, I was the only person to raise my hand. So they're like, "Here, you're going to go watch CBs fill in potholes." And so all I did was spend like several nights in a week, looking over that. So it was about the experience, my operational experience of looking through, a sniper weapons or DM platform. But from there, I got into competitive shooting, and pretty much immediately started shooting long range. I was able to got into marksmanship instruction in the Marine Corps, which then led me to working at the range for about a year in Hawaii. And we did at the time we were doing a local Mark 12 course. It was about 3 weeks long. And, I'd known what it was through deployments and stuff. And guys, even before that, had the Sam R, so which was it wasn't even suppressed and stuff. It was just like a national match rifle that guys would compete with. And PWS at Quantico just made them and give them out to units essentially. And that's what the guys were running in country with their fancy 77 grain bullets. And anyways, I was able to work at this course, and we were engaged targets out to 800 meters. A lot of other stuff. So that's really what got me into the precision realm. And everybody else there was either a sniper or some type of infantryman or was a DMR. So it was perfect. And I just kind of fell in love with it from there. Just, didn't even really know what I was teaching as long as it was the fundamentals. And from there, started immediately getting into competition. And one of the first competitions I shot was a NRA long range competition, shooting iron sights at 1,000 yards. And just got totally destroyed. And that's where it started. So I've shot a lot of high power service rifle, Palma, those disciplines. I've shot some F class. Never did bench rest. Been to a bench rest match, but didn't shoot. PRS, NRL Hunter, the QP gas gun stuff, some random, just outlaw DMR matches, Mammoth Sniper Challenge, Coleman's, a lot of the other sniper stuff. So I pretty much shot everything long range related. That's available outside of the military, minus bench rest and like the competition dynamics matches. Outside of that, if it's got a name attached to it in the U.S. or a brand, I've probably shot it. And if I haven't shot it, I've RO'd it, and been around it some form or fashion. So
bench rest isn't
the world championship.
Bench rest isn't to me is not a long range competition. Bench rest is a reloading competition. I used to shoot bench rest, and bench rest is absolutely a reloading competition for sure.
Yeah. Well, we've gotten a lot of good stuff out of it, different cartridges and bullets designs and equipment. A lot of the reloading equipment that we see now that is PRS has helped progress. The precursors to those came from bench rest world, and it's pretty cool to see. Like, people want to make fun of everything. We always it goes back to the bias. We always want to make fun of things maybe we don't understand, or we just make fun of it to make fun of it, whatever we're in the mood for that day. But, people joke and make fun of like F-class and bench rest, but we wouldn't be where we were today without those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's very, very great that we have them.
Yeah, that was actually even partially what initiated whenever I decided to make the 6mm Haze was I had a 6 PPC bench rest rifle. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could shoot this out of a gas gun? Because I am a gas gun guy. And I was like, wouldn't this be cool if I could shoot it out of a gas gun? And that was kind of what started the 6mm Haze thing for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they're very inherently precise cartridges, the 30 and the 6 PPCs and 22 PPCs are all based off that by 39 case.
Yep.
So it's funny people use that because it works really, really well.
I've fallen absolutely head over heels in love with the 22 ARC, which is almost identical to a 22 PPC, which I also had a bench rest rifle chambered in. And I mean, you're shooting a bench rest cartridge essentially out of a gas gun. And I mean, I haven't had any problems out of 22 ARC. You've seen me shoot it in competition. You've seen me reloading and stuff. I've made all that stuff very public. I'm a huge fan of the cartridge. Do you have any experience with 22 ARC?
Not ARC, but Grendel, same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I will have one. I will have a chambered 22 ARC here pretty soon. So I've been shooting at 6 ARC a bit lately, but I'll have a 22 ARC, and my plan is to use that in PRS. Maybe QP next year, maybe not. But PRS for sure. Looking to shoot 22 ARC and PRS next year.
What barrel length?
22 is what I'm looking at right now. Might do a 20, but I think 22.
Okay, so I know to stay away from open division next year.
Yeah, that gun will be specific to PRS. I doubt I'd use it in like a QP match or something. Just it's going to be heavy. It's going to be obnoxious. It'll be like 20 pounds or something crazy. It's something I wouldn't want to be slinging around in QP.
Yeah, I get that. I like light guns. All right, what are matches that you host or are affiliated with?
So I have been affiliated as well as assistant match directed the Mammoth Sniper Challenge. Always like that match early, first thing in the year. It's usually kicks off the year. It's literally like the 5th through the 7th or 7th through 9th, usually in there in January. And so been doing that one for, I guess, close to 6 years now, and was able to, got the honor to assistant match director with Chris Andrews this year. And I've done a few others, with my work. I've worked the Fort Benning multi-gun matches when we had those. And then most recently NRL Hunters. So past couple of years, I helped down at Arena Training Facility with the Loophole NRL Hunter match there. And then this year I helped run my own match under my title, and with a friend of mine that has a range over in Alabama, which was the 6-hour Steel City Safari. And that's also an NRL Hunter match. So right now, currently, competing in PRS and QP, but it will be and have run NRL Hunters, and look forward to continue doing that. And the Mammoth Sniper Challenge. Those right now are really what interests me. PRS is still fun, but I really like the team stuff, and NRL has team division now. So been really chasing that, and then trying to give back too. It's not always about just being able to go shoot every match. I think we should be able to RO and run them as well.
Yeah. All right. Tips and tricks. What are some tips and tricks that you might express to a newer shooter who's wanting to get into the long range game?
First thing I would tell them is thank you. Thanks for the interest, and to keep at it even when you get discouraged because you're frustrated about a piece of equipment you bought or whatever. And with that, like, research. I think one of the biggest things I could tell anybody is patience is a hard thing to have, right? And so we have that money and we have a burning hole in our pocket, and we just want to buy stuff that the Instagram or YouTube or even I or you say, right? Like they want to use what we use or something, and they're not us. So maybe not what we do isn't what they should do. And so again, backwards plan, figure out where they want to go, where they want to start, and do that. And you can do it. And I use the word budget because everything is a budget, whether it's expensive or cheap, it's still called a budget. But you can do it in a cheaper way and waste less, because guys like you and me have wasted a bunch of money and time doing things the hard way at some point. So doing the research to figure out what you want to do and how to get there, and try to connect with people. And with that, I mean, you don't have to have a gun to go to a match. Go RO. If it's competition you're looking at getting into, go help out, or just walk around and visit. You don't even have to work it. If there's one local to you, kind of ask around. And I guarantee you, if you're around and you're talking to guys and asking questions again, while they're not while they're shooting maybe, but like when you see them walking to another stage or something, and talk to them, and you may find out somebody's willing to just loan you all their gear the next time they have a match, and that you still don't have to buy anything. You just pay them for ammo or bring your own or something. And sometimes I've seen guys just say, show up here, I'll give you everything, because they want to grow the sport. And that's kind of where going back to thank you, like growing the sport. Welcome to the hobby that I really enjoy, that I'm also making a job, and because I enjoy it so much. And, welcome to that, and just do your research, and don't get frustrated with like anything else.
Yeah. You have actually loaned me a rifle and ammunition to shoot a match. And I have returned that favor to other shooters, not to you personally, because I don't think you've ever come to a match with less than 2 guns. Yeah, I've provided a shooter with rifle, ammunition, data, all of that stuff, and just said, "Here you go, shoot this match." And it was kind of one of those like, somebody did this for me kind of thing. I'm going to do it for other people. So now, almost every match that I shoot, I bring a 20-inch 5.56 and AAC ammo, because it's not crazy expensive, and I would rather have spent the money on the ammo. I don't look at ammo is your consumable. everything else you let somebody borrow, you're getting back. So you're not losing anything. So, I don't mind giving somebody, a couple hundred rounds to shoot a match and stuff like that. And, let them borrow a rifle and stuff. Talking about the budget piece that you touched on, that was what initiated the 20-inch PSA thing for me. A lot of people don't know that. They think that I was just, poor, which is also true. They thought that I was just fucking poor and, showed up to a precision rifle match with a PSA rifle. But what happened was I kept telling people that they didn't have to have some super fancy, souped up gat to do well in precision rifle matches. And I took that PSA 20-inch rifle and put that $300 primary arm scope on it and a Control Solutions muzzle brake and started shooting that in matches very successfully. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, and I liked it. I liked that I was shooting something that cost, total gun probably cost $1,000 or less. I almost guarantee it costs less.
Like muzzle brake, scope, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything costs less than $1,000. And I was top 5 in almost everything I shot. And I even won a couple. So, it became like almost it was like I was trying to prove not only to other people, but to myself that I didn't need the super expensive, super nice gear or whatever, that it was, more your capability more so than the gear that you're using.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's people like, we'll say like you can't buy hits. You can to an extent, like if we're really trying to like break the words down, right? But for the most part, like as long as your piece of glass or your guns just is reliable enough to get through the day, even if you have to work through a malfunction or two, if you can do that and then also shoot the gun you got, then use that, especially at your first match. Even if it doesn't fit within the rules, you'd be surprised. Like there might be, the match director might just have you shoot half the price and out of competition or something. Who knows? Like it's worth asking. But, and then you can figure out later, like, okay, do I need to spend $5,000 on Tangent Theta, or can I spend $900 on a Vortex PST or something, or Burris or whatever, and I'm running my Athlon or Arkin or whatever for now. I mean, there's some pretty great glass for what they cost in the $500, $600 range these days, compared to what you got for $500 or $600, 7 or 8 years ago, like not too long ago.
Yeah.
And so guys are making hits with $400 Ruger Americans and Athlons and Arkins, where, like you said, the whole gun's under $1,000, and they're making hits at 1,200-1,300 yards, at least on a full size IPSC consecutively, every time they go out. So a lot of capability can be had if you do that research.
What is a piece of equipment that you just thought was the shit the first time you used it? Maybe you continue to use it. It was just one of those things that you were like, this is a game changer. And I'm taking that out of the equation because most of the people who've come on the show have either said a tripod or a game changer. You're like, damn it, you took my game changer away from me.
No, actually, I wasn't even thinking about the shooting bag. I remember back a bipod, I think. I was trying to think either whether it be the first 2-stage match trigger I ever felt in an AR or a bipod. But I think I'm going to go with a bipod. Yeah, and so before that it was all slings or magazine rested, and that's or just propping it up on backpacks and stuff. And so I remember the first times I really used a bipod, which I was well into my 20s in the military before I'd ever used one. And it was through that Mark 12 course, like the EBR or EMR I had, as the Marine Corps called it. I didn't have a bipod on. It was just a leather sling, the 1913 sling or 1903 sling, 1907, whatever model sling. I forget the name of it now, but just the old leather sling, had a magazine, old clipazine, and I stuck it in the gun, and no bipods. So I had to rest up on backpacks and walls and stuff. But first time I shot off a bipod, I was like, I immediately took another shot because I was like, wow, I don't have to, it's so much faster than letting the rifle come back around off the magazine or off the, with a sling. So I would say that maybe second was the, a match trigger in general, like 2-stage. For me, it was 2-stage in the AR, very quickly followed up by like a jewel and a bolt gun that weighed like 3 ounces.
Mhm.
When I was so scared to shoot it because I felt like I was going to ND, and now I feel like 4 ounces is too heavy sometimes, so 3 is where I need to be. It's crazy how like when you get used to something like that, certain you can feel. You just even if you've lost dexterity or whatever sensation in the finger, you can still your body knows that that's a light trigger and but to you it feels heavy. I don't know, it's crazy.
When I shoot a mil spec trigger now, my whole body's just like, ugh, ugh, this is disgusting. And it's like you can feel, just from shooting so many mid to really nice triggers. Whenever I get on any trigger, really, that somebody's just like, hey, try this out. I can feel every single like gritty part, every little machine imperfection in that trigger interface with the sear, and I'm just like, and it makes such a big difference. So I'm glad that you mentioned the trigger as the piece of equipment. Okay, are there any new developments in your life, such as a new car, new house, project, promotion? I know you mentioned that you're retiring soon and that you're starting a business. You can talk about those two things or anything else.
Yeah, so got those. Bought a new truck last year, but kind of already outgrowing it. I really liked my truck, but just as I start carrying around more steel and guns, and next thing I know, look in the back and I've got Pelican cases everywhere, and I'm like, this little midsize might not cut it. So who knows? I've been looking at vehicles. I don't really want to buy another one, but who knows? Got one kid moving into junior high, and then another one's moving into her like the big girl school. She's moving into her 10th grade year, and they normally had the 9th graders separated from the high school. So I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how their transition goes. When you talk about big things in life, I just kind of sitting back and seeing how they both take moving away, away from different age groups and progressing on. My business and retirement's a huge one. Nervous, excited, it all work out. That's kind of how I feel, but I am excited about it all, and nervous too. I think that's all okay. And with that, I'm doing my own business, so I'm trying to be very cognizant of who I am and my name, right? Like not just shilling for a company or a brand or anything, or just stuff that I don't necessarily believe in, but also have to put food on the table with this brand, right? And my business. So trying to be very particular who I align with. Do they have similar mindsets and things like that as me, as a company? And are they okay with me being like, look, man, there are other options. This ain't the only one. This is the one I like, and I like it enough to represent. But just because I represent X brand scope that costs, they don't have anything below a certain threshold. Like, well, if you're just getting into it, you don't need to buy my brand. You can buy this brand. And if companies can't be okay with that, then I'm sorry. Then I don't want to be part of that. Like, I want them to be like, hey, not our products aren't for everybody, and sometimes they are. Great if they have something for everybody, but it's okay to have options. That's what the American dream is, right? It's competition and capitalism and all that. So we can't sit here. I don't think we can sit here and say that we believe in that and then get all pissy when there's another product around. So
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that and trying to just figure out life through that, and be away from the requirements of Uncle Sam. And being able to do things a little more freely and when I want to, and spend, using my business to work when I want and have to versus every day, and I can spend time with my family more. That's probably one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is catching up. I say you can't ever catch up, but being able to be here for the last 3 to 5 years, my kids are actually in the house. So.
Are there any cool toys that you either want to or can talk about that are kind of maybe new to the scene, maybe new to you, maybe it's a prototype, something like that, that you can talk about?
Man, so I mean, there's, I won't necessarily say brands, but there's a few weapons platforms, a few electronic devices, and like the weapon mounted Lerf world that are coming or have recently come out that I have used and some I haven't, that I'm excited for. Seeing things like the traditionally we've had the Raptor and the Mars and things like that out, and then Vortex released their Impact at a much lower price, and it's big and hideous, yada yada. I get it, but it works, and it works for the distances most people need it to work in. Like, it may not have on the SWIR spectrum, it may not be ITAR, it may not be compliant for over deployment use, or and all that crap, but I think what it has done is kind of opened the minds and the eyes of those other companies to make more affordable versions of their pretty awesome stuff that's $10,000-$20,000. And so we're starting to see some of that come out. And so some of those are starting to drop. They're still expensive in the grand scheme of things, but they might be 5,000, 6,000 instead of 10. And you're getting a lot of the form factor that money pays for. That's, a third of the size of the Impact. Same with weapons platforms, specifically talking about Grendels and stuff. There's some newer things coming. Some things have been out for a little bit that I've more recently experienced, like that Rexus bolt for the Grendel, or arcs. Just companies thinking outside the box a little bit to make the platforms a little more capable, so we can run a little bit higher pressure ammo, or different barrel steels that are coming out. Looking at next gen stuff that SIG has come out with their Fury / 6551 or 6851 and all that. When you start pushing these high pressure ammo, now you got to have better steel in the barrel so you don't burn it out quicker. And so there's all kinds of stuff that is, opening doors for other companies to look into that. And then companies, like the Black Arc ammo pushing higher velocities. Well, now again, that those capability there, and then we need to have the guns being able to withstand it too. So seeing different bolt materials and cam pin materials and stronger gas rings that don't wear out as quick, and different barrel materials, like just all this cool progression that I really like seeing. So it's multiple companies out there doing it. But I really think that, it's happening in the laser world and the flashlight world, just like the technology we've gotten out of bench rest and F-class and stuff, like I was talking about earlier. Like, some of this is coming from the tactical space of like maneuverability, and some of it's just coming from pushing the threshold of what the platforms are capable of. And some of it's due to a near peer threat requirement of having to penetrate body armor at certain distances. So now how do we get there? Well, velocity and bullet designs and, and all that. So we have this requirement that we need to penetrate X thickness at X distance. How do we get there? Just like buying that, what gun do I want? And so companies are starting to figure that out. And some things are there technology wise, and some things we're still a little ways out. But the newest product specifically I want to get hands on is that Vector X weapon, or the binos, the Lerf binos, and the new SIG 10K Gen 2s without the blue tint. Specific products that I have not had in hand that I really, really want. And I'm waiting for them to release, because I just like the Vectors. I really want to buy some, but it's a lot of money right now. And but I'm really excited about those things, because they're really pushing the glass quality as well as the laser capabilities and all that. And having reticles etched in there and stuff too, like the Vectors have. Now I can mill targets with my binos and have this range enhancer, they call it. You used to call it like the doublers on the old Vector 21s, but you can take a 12 power, make it a 17 power. I think it adds 4 or 5x on the front of it. And so like now I've got binos that I can spot with, mill reticle stuff with, size targets up, and it's also my Lerf. I think that's pretty awesome capability. So those are two things that I'm really looking forward to getting hands on.
Yeah, the SIG 10K that you were just talking about, I got to look through a pair of the Gen 1s. You're talking about the blue tint. I got to look through a pair of the Gen 1s this past weekend, and I was like, that's real blue, like real blue. Like it's dark. And, I just purchased a few months ago, I just purchased the SIG 6Ks binos, and I love them.
As far as glass,
Yeah, I love them. They're great. I actually used them in one of Dan Posey's team sniper matches a few months ago at Coleman's Creek. Also, you touched on Black Arc ammunition and that you're testing that out. For the people that don't know what makes Black Arc ammunition unique, I actually have some right here. Is the cartridge case is not standard brass like what you've seen for most of your life or whatever. It is a NAS3 case, and because it is made of this more durable material, you can push the pressures to, I believe it's 82 kpsi. I've spoke to the people at Black Arc. I think they said they're running like right at 69, 70 kpsi for theirs. So they're not even, they're not even touching what it is capable of. I made a suggestion to them whenever I spoke to them in person at a match. They had set up a table. I had said that if they ran their ammo, or if they made their ammo with the 80.5 grain burger, I thought that would be, kind of a cool seller. And apparently they have taken that, and that's what they're doing now. They have released Black Arc ammo with the 80.5 grain burger, so you're getting a velocity and BC, advantage.
Oh yeah, that's a really good bullet. Yeah, the most recent conversation I had with them was they're right at Sammy spec, which most people don't realize. Like most brass ammo is not anywhere near the 62,000 psi that it could be at, and so I want to say they're right around 60. Was his most recent pressure testing, and a lot of that's for reliability reasons and stuff. Last thing they need is somebody's gun not blow up, but something break, and then blame them. And it's like, well, you sped something up, so like it's like that triangle, right? Like if I give up one leg, I gain or lose, something somewhere. And so if you're gaining velocity, like what are we giving up in the gun? And typically it's either reliability, but overall just durability and longevity of the gun. So like things are going to wear out faster. The bore, operating parts and things like that can wear faster. So it's not always the gun's fault or the ammo's fault. It's our fault for not paying attention to what we're working with, But yeah, that ammo is pretty sweet. I bought some recently from the CR2 guys here locally, and been shooting it. I'm actually going to go out either tomorrow or Friday and shoot some more out of a different gun because I want to get some velocities out of a 20 inch and an 18 inch. So I've only shot it out of a 16 inch so far, and I've only got a little bit left. So after that's gone, I plan on trying out some of the new stuff that comes out that they're coming out with the burger. So pretty excited about that.
Nice. Well, I've got some numbers from a 12 inch to a 24 inch 5.56. So I'll shoot those numbers over to you just so that we can compare later. All right. Sponsor shout out. I know that you're in the Army still, so the sponsor thing kind of doesn't work out the same way, but is there a particular company or something like that you want to throw as a shout out, or who's going to sponsor you in the very near future?
Yeah. So right now it's I'm like Ricky Bobby. I just have that mountain lion and me on there. No, so I got a few that are essentially signed up to help me through the World Championship and in retirement, and I'll be doing a little bit with Hornady and a company called Outdoor America. Those two right now are like the main two that are going to support me through that World Championship as I hit retirement right there. And so pretty appreciative of that. Outdoor America is a streaming channel. They mostly do like hunting and stuff, like hunting and a lot of fishing shows and whatnot. And obviously Hornady without explain, that's a household name literally. And we have to, in the World Championship, I have to shoot factory ammo. And so because of my division, because it's international competition, like a lot of these other countries actually weigh the ammunition when they're flying with it. So like 200 rounds, 220 rounds, whatever we need to compete with, just the ammo to shoot the match is overweight. And so they come up with the rule of like, let's have certain factory ammunition companies are eligible to be used. So that way they can fly here, acquire ammo, and use that here, they're not hand loading ammo that they can't finish the match with and all that stuff. So we'll have, I think there's 5 different companies like Hornady, Federal, Lapua, and I can't remember the other two off the top of my head, but they, some of them have to be commercially available worldwide, essentially, for it to work out. So there's 5 companies, so it's not just any factory ammo. And I've known the Hornady guys for a long time, so I really like their company and what they stand for. So I reached out to them. There might be a better bullet or better loading out there for factory ammo that could have shot better, but I really like what their company stands for. So I reached out to them just to get some data on and stuff, and they offered to, like, hey, when it's time and you're able to legally, like, we'd like to help you out. So definitely big thanks to Hornady and Outdoor America.
Huh. Yeah,
And
I've never heard of I've never heard of Outdoor America. I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, they're a newer company, kind of like the Outdoor Channel, but they do streaming over the air streaming stuff, whereas I guess Outdoor Channels over there, like cable and satellite. So I think they partnered with them in the last couple of years actually to help fill that space.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna look and see if we had any questions during the podcast.
That's what I was looking down earlier. I didn't know where to find it. I saw it on YouTube, and I didn't catch anything.
So, just jumping in, what's the topic? That was from Kane Frey. The topic is how awesome Scott is. Red Plemons, my favorite pirate and crayon eater. Good job, fellas. Jay Sprad said nice. And Missing Link Outdoors, why worry about penetration? 4570. We'll make the plate stuck. Yeah, that's actually that's a guy who I deployed with.
4570 government, all the things,
Yeah, it does
like
all
the ribs touch or the plates touch. I like that one. Just compressed all the insides.
It works. Yeah, I had a buddy talk about it doesn't matter what kind of body armor they use because I'm shooting a 7 Psalm or something like that, and it was like 7 Psalm with like a 90 grain bullet or something, and I was like, Jesus,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, well, you see, you mentioned like you mentioned that like hunters using 300 ultra mag or 7 ultra mag or something like that. And when I went to a hunt this past year, it was a disability hunt with Sawtooth Oak Farms, and they asked if I would help work the range because people are zeroing for the hunt and everything like that. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's my area. That's where I shine. So we go out there, and the amount of like 300 Win Mags, 300 ultra mags, 7 rums, like all that stuff. I was like, you're shooting a whitetail deer at and I would ask their guide, because like the guide has seen the property. Usually the hunter hasn't, but you have communication with them. I would be like, hey, how far is the farthest potential shot that they'll make? Oh, nothing more than 50, 80 yards. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, so that's always funny to me whenever people have these just enormous cartridges that they're shooting, a sub 200-pound animal with. I'm like, all right.
And they wonder why they only got 11 pounds of meat out of that 180-pound buck, because they destroyed the rest of it.
Yeah, I guess anything worth doing is worth overdoing, right?
I mean, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's what I heard. I need to
Yeah.
Jason Whitehead, you might have heard of him. He said he needs one of those Veracity Solutions t-shirts.
I'm actually was on the phone today getting hats and shirts made, so I should have some in a couple of weeks. I'll have an extra small for his little frame, just for him.
Extra medium.
We can get into it with him,
You have to have it custom. You have to have it made custom for him.
You mentioned you said a scope you got for me. That was I appreciate you saying it was for me. I wish I could take credit. That was actually Vortex stepped up for that when we did the raffle rifle for you. And speaking of Jace, so Jace won that rifle after all the donations came in, and a lot of companies, Sons of Liberty and Compass Lake and Vortex, and man, I can't remember everybody. And then one of our gunsmiths at work, helped coordinate a lot of the majority of that. And so I just was happy to be a part of it. And then Jace won it and then gave the rifle to you. So really, Jace gave you the scope. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And the old Campy rifle. So I don't know, that was pretty fun and cool to do, and glad you're getting use out of it.
Yeah.
So even if you went to the 22 Gark, what do you call
Grindark,
it?
Grindark Russian improved. Yeah.
Russian improved.
Yeah. We've come up with so many ridiculous names for it on the 22 ARC page that I'm an admin for, that it's just we called it Grindark Russian improved Soviet at one point, just all of those, anyway, is there anything else that you want to go over before I end the podcast?
No, man, check him out. Listen to what he says. He's a pretty funny fella, but he's also pretty smart. Has a lot of experience. So if you guys are out there listening, check out, reach out to him. He really likes talking ballistics and guns and all that. And same for me. I really enjoy it too. So you obviously find us either on social media or something like that. But no, man, I hate that people out there hate me, but it is what it is. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Well, anyway, everybody, I'm glad that you guys dropped in. I'm glad that some of you guys had questions and stuff like that. Scott, I'm glad that you took time out of your day to be on my podcast. And everybody, make sure you guys get out there and suck today's dick.